This is Dead Serious, a show about short horror stories worthy of discussion. I'm Dead Palette, the 69th Hokage. Today we're taking a look at Victory Bell by Zathoth. This is another one of my belated critiques of a Creepypasta challenge story. Let's get right into it. Bella Awesome was an obscure Let's Player with a somewhat close-knit group of watchers. While some left, there was always a trickle of new watchers coming in. Belle mostly played JRPGs, some fighting games, and Pokemon. Mostly Pokemon. So much Pokemon. She had a habit of filling her team with mostly grass, bug, and poison types. Always pick the grass starter and preferred slowly poisoning her opponents to death, as opposed to more sensible Pokemon trainers who defeat everything as fast as possible. You can always imagine she hated fire types. Belle herself was ditzy, but never as loud and hyper as more popular Let's Players. Cute, with long hair in more colors than a rainbow eucalyptus, and narrow, dark eyes. She loved horrible wordplays, that wasn't obvious from her name. Spelling error there. I love her viewers shared. Wordplay such as naming her Victory Bell, for whom the victory bell tolls. A habit that led to someone speculating that her name was Victoria. Her tendency to slowly poison her opponents to death led to the theory that her name was actually Jessica. And of course, there was the obligatory question to ask if every boyfriend she mentioned was a beast. So out of all of the stories that we read, I like the approach of this one, being that it's a viewer viewing Let's Plays instead of someone that has the game themselves. That's a good out for why they don't have a copy of the game. I also like that so far we're building this around the Let's Player themselves. This story is basically entirely about the Let's Player, their tendencies, the cult following. It's a very personal experience, very personable, a very pulled in, intimate story so far about this little group of people and this girl with her cult following, and you get a good amount of personality out of, how superficial she is and everything, and having that obsession with green Pokemon. A+ so far in terms of the concept and how it's pulling us in. Grammar errors and everything, words could be tightened up a little bit, but let's press on. We were horrible. Other things like call her tweets, chimes, and everyone having low resolution avatars I had taken with my Game Boy camera didn't make us much better. Again, grammar and language kind of failing us here. I don't know exactly what that sentence means. I'm fairly certain I read that verbatim. We were horrible. Other things like call her tweets, chimes, and everyone having low resolution avatars I had taken with my Game Boy camera didn't make us much better. So are we saying that you gave everyone their avatars on this YouTube page? It's just bizarre. Maybe this isn't on YouTube. It used to be where Let's Plays weren't very much posted on YouTube. Now, of course, that's the only place where you get them. One day, in late October, she chimed a picture of a gray Game Boy cartridge with a white label that said Pokemon, all in lowercase Comic Sans. Someone sent this #obvious haunted cartridge. #thanks for everyone sending me curses, guys. GAIS, as guys, instead of GUYS. I like that, we're given the lexicon of chimed, the slang of chimed, instead of tweet, and then our narrator goes on to use that. And as discussed, we now have an excuse as to why we don't have the Game Boy cartridge. Good excuse. Simple out that I'm surprised no one else thought of. but I think it's used to great effect here. Later that evening, she brought out her GameCube with the Game Boy player attached and hooked it up to the stream. The game began in Celadon without any intro screen. The first thing she did was go into the start menu to check her Pokemon. She let out a grumble and frowned into her face cam when she saw that her team consisted of Charizard, Rapidash, Arcanine, Flareon, and Ninetales, and went on a typist rant about how fire types are impure and inferior. Someone typed, "Shut up, Grass Hitler," and her typism turned into laughter. So far, this sounds pretty typical for what you would expect from hardcore Pokemon fans, and I like the kind of little bit of banter we're getting. We're given one instance of it here, with the "Shut up, Grass Hitler" thing and the type is blah blah blah. We don't really need all that much more to get an idea of what kind of atmosphere we're having with her streams and her Let's Plays and everything. I think that does enough to ground us, especially considering this is a short story and this was under a constraint of the story could only be so long and the challenge. It was then we realized that Celadon was empty. The huge mall was abandoned, and so was the mansion and the game corner. The only NPCs were Sister Joy and another woman in the Poké Center. Rumor is that Erica is hiding something in the trees beyond her. "You will need this," said one mysterious woman, and gave us Cut, which Belle instantly taught to Charizard and walked out the door. I felt like giving that woman, a mysterious woman, a southern accent for some reason. A battle started instantly against a Victory Bell, and both being unable to run and not having any Pokeballs, she used flamethrower in the battle was over as soon as it began. About every 10 steps, a battle would start, and not having any other options, Belle used flamethrower and was done with it. "I'm not going to toll or rate this," she said with a frown on her face, and a wave of relief went through the chat. While she was starting to look angry, everyone knew she wasn't after that pun. A lot of burning of innocent plant life and cut down trees later, she finally made it to Celadon Gym, which was, like the rest of the city, empty. Belle went up to one of the trees and pressed A, and the tree disappeared, only to be replaced by a set of stairs. Down the stairs was a white corridor going to the left with signs adorning the top wall. Belle walked up to the first one, pressed A, and was met with a low-resolution image of what looked like a man, naked, tortured, blindfolded, gagged, and chained to the wall behind him. So here I think is where I have my biggest problem and my biggest like of this story. I like the idea, and again, this is underutilized in a lot of these stories. I really think that Zathoth was a very lateral thinker here, and just like I really like the story, a sealed copy of Pokemon Blue, because it was very lateral thinking. It wasn't trying to do what other stories were doing. This story's doing something similar with the stairs, having it glitch out and have stairs instead of taking you across where the tree was in the way. If you don't know about Pokemon games, there are things called HMs, and those are moves that have utility outside of battles. And so you can use Cut to cut down a tree to move past where the tree is blocking. I think unexpectedly putting a set of stairs under the tree, and that's how I interpret this. Instead of the tree moving away, you cut down the tree, and then it's hiding this. And so it can either be couched as a glitch or as intentional, this is a hidden pathway. I like that. It plays into the glitch motif of these haunted cartridge things, but also into using a game's assets to build something new. That I think is very effective. I do question, how low resolution is this? Is this image, like a painting in game Like, is it framed on a wall and then the man is all of these things? Or is this something that is supposed to be inside the game? Like, your character's walking by and they come across this and it's really there. Because if it's really there, that's really low quality pixel art, like super pixelated. I don't know how you can get all these details about naked, tortured, blindfolded, gagged, and chained. That is a lot of details, for the in-game sprites that they had at the time. I'd like to give this the benefit of the doubt, and say that, maybe the visuals in this are just underexplained, but I think that you can explain this bit a little bit better. And the good news is, I think that this is literally just underexplained. This isn't a structural problem, and I think that this is something that can be fixed with a 30-minute rewrite to the story. You know, these punch-ups, it's not that much more difficult to fix than a grammar mistake. Belle jumped in shock while the chat exploded in profanities. Looking seriously unnerved, she continued walking down the corridor and looking at the pictures. All Game Boy quality images showing similar things to the first one. Erica stood at the end of the corridor, looking at one of the pictures. As Belle approached her, she exclaimed, an exclamation mark popped out of her head in surprise. Voomp! Who are you? And then a battle started. Erica opened with Belle Awesome, but was instantly burnt by Charizard. Next was Victory Bell, Tangela, and lastly Vile Bloom. But all were knocked out in a single round. No, you know my secret. What now? Red stood in front of Erica until the screen flashed and she disappeared. Then the game shut down. Belle looked scared, like she was on the verge of tears. She excused herself, saying that there was something else she needed to do, and ended the stream. That was the last time anyone saw her. And I think that this is a pretty strong end. Considering that it's using the theming of Pokemon in a way, to tell you about this Let's Player, to get you to know them, but then there's this secret that's not explained at all. You know, she runs off in tears, excuses herself, and is just never heard from again. So this tells us that, there's more to the story that we can't know. Someone would, in the past, look at this story and say, you know, it's not explained at all. Exactly. I'm so glad that this person didn't say she died, or, you know, there's this news article where she was tortured and raped, and, you know, they would go overboard. The less is more in this situation. Overall, I really like this story. It was high on my list. Some of the grammar problems and, you know, these little nagging things I brought up, kept it from being at the top of the list, but I think this is the easiest one out of all of the stories that has problems to kind of rewrite and fix. So thank you, Zathoth, for submitting this, and on to our sponsor of the day, Waffles. Toaster Waffles, the optimal maple syrup delivery system.